welcome to Rockbridge Farmstead Podcast.
Stories from our homestead and yours.
One story at a time. Welcome back to another episode of the Rockbridge Farmstead Podcast. This is Greg.
And Marianne, and we're really glad that you joined us again.
Yeah, so we have some exciting things going on. We'll start with a little bit of a farm update.
So, something fun that we got to do last weekend, which I don't feel like we get to do very often, is go to another farm, another homestead.
Yeah, we went and visited Tooth Acres last Sunday. You probably heard of them on the last podcast. Tooth Acres, it's Dental Goat on Instagram.
Ben and Ariel. We had such an amazing time. Yeah, it was really fun. The kids had a lot of fun, and we got to see their whole gang of goats.
Yeah, they have way cooler goats than what we have.
Yeah, they are pretty cool.
Just being able to be around their goats kind of changed my heart for goats a little bit because they are pretty cool.
And they have a bunch of other animals too, and gardens and plants and bees.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons we were going to go there. We had kind of looked at the weather, and it was supposed to be a really nice day. Well, Mother Nature has just been drunk the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to be really nice and sunny, and it was pretty cold and windy.
But that's kind of been the way it is. It's been rainy, windy, cold. Then one day it'll be warm and rainy, and then it'll be cold again.
Yeah, I keep telling myself I can't wait until it's like springtime, but then I know that 90-degree weather is going to come, and it's going to be miserable.
Yeah, I feel like our spring is very short here because it just goes from cold to really hot fast.
Yeah. But we did get into the bees a little bit. That was a lot of fun. Like I said, we just had a really good time. And from the moment we got there, it was like we were long-lost friends.
Yeah, and they're super hospitable and...
We went to go look for some ramps, and even being from West Virginia, I've never had a ramp, but they are awesome.
Yeah,
and
they're really good.
Brought some back to Kentucky to plant, so we have ramps on our homestead now.
So we'll be able to harvest those probably in 2 years, I think, is what the plan is anyway.
Yeah.
To let them grow up and everything.
Yep. So that was really good. So if you guys haven't already checked out Dental Goat from last episode, go ahead and go check them out. They are really great people.
And then another it's not really that fun because we shovel a lot of this. It's not manure.
It's mulch.
Yeah.
So any free moment we have has been shoveling mulch.
Lots and lots of mulch.
Let me tell you a little story about mulch. So my dear wife decided she wanted to do what's called Back to Eden gardening, where you use a lot of mulch. That's fine. She told me about a website that you could chip drop and you could get free wood chips, and we signed up and
never heard anything for a while.
Yeah, which we don't live, I don't know. I don't think anyone around here actually uses it, any of the arborists, but so I found a place on Facebook, a local tree trimming company, and I was like, hey, would you guys have any chips that you could let us have? Oh, sure. We're actually going to be working out by your house. I can drop you off a load. How much do you want? So I asked him how much a load was, and he was like, oh, probably 11 to 14 yards of wood chips, which I don't really know what to expect.
It's hard to imagine that, yeah.
So, come home the next day, there's a load of wood chips. Awesome. That's great. Come home the next day, there's 2 more loads of wood chips. Okay, well, that's a lot. We can do that.
Use it.
Next day, there's, I think, 3 more loads.
No, it was 2, and one they came back later and dumped it in a completely different area. It wasn't even near the other big pile. It was in a different part entirely, right in the front yard, actually.
Yeah. All in all, we got 7 loads of chips from them. Dump truck size loads of chips. They found someone that was willing to take it, and we got taken advantage of. But
no, we didn't get taken.
No, we didn't really get taken advantage
They
of.
cut down trees for us too.
Yeah.
Like, for free because we let them put mulch here. I was like, no, thank you for giving me mulch.
Yeah, so
Free.
I finally called the guy and I was like, hey man, like I really appreciate the free mulch, but like we have enough.
Yeah.
And then it was probably a week later, he called me and he was like, hey man, I know we had talked about cutting these trees of yours down and I never really got back to you with a quote, but my guys are in a pinch. They really need to dump a load and get back to work. The dump is already closed.
Yeah, and they had to pay to dump the wood chips there too.
Can you take one more load and I will cut down your trees free of charge? And I said, heck yes.
Because there are giant old silver maple trees that were halfway dead and they just needed to be cut down. So
yeah, one of these trees, just to give you an example of the size, we had cut down because it was hanging over our house. Mm-hmm. However, the guy that cut it down left 14 feet of it, like just the stump going straight up, left because he had a 24-inch blade on his chainsaw and he could not cut through it to cut it down. That's how massive this was. So they dropped it. They cut it in sections. I told him, I was like, just make it big enough that like a tractor or something could move. Not that I have a tractor, but you know, we could do what we can. And if you actually look on our Instagram at some point, like a year ago, you can see my Jeep pulling one because it just got to the point we had to burn them.
Yeah, we just did a giant burn.
So we did like 3 of them at a time and they burned for like a week, but they're
all burnt up.
But anyway, back to these wood chips. So the other thing that we deal with is we have a lot of hills. And the wood chips where they got dropped off are not anywhere close to the garden.
No. And the garden is up a hill.
Yes. And so last year, we took up, I think, almost 20 like trailer
At least.
loads.
I would say maybe 30 or 40.
Yeah. So I have, typical 4x8 trailer. We would shovel it all into the trailer as much as what my Jeep could physically pull and pull it up to the hill, unload it, put it where it needs to go. Or a lot of times, honestly, like I would fill up the Jeep the night before and just drive it up there and park it. And then Marianne and the kids could unload it that day.
We would just wheelbarrow mulch because we were starting fresh with just cardboard underneath and then mulch and, compost and everything. So it was a brand new space. Like this year we have to put more wood chips on just to kind of cover more, but it's not going to be as much as it was last year because that was just like the base, the layer, the start of it all. So
yeah. So
lots of mulching last year, but we've been shoveling a lot this year too because we've been filling in. We added a little flower bed to the side of our house that we're going to be putting some herbs and flowers in. And we added the bee yard behind the shop that we put, landscaping fabric down and mulched all of that to keep it free from weeds.
Marianne, do you have a mouse in your pocket?
No.
Because you're saying we shoveled a lot of mulch. I think I've done the majority of the mulch shoveling.
Okay, this year you did. Last year, I shoveled a lot of mulch.
Yeah, you shoveled a lot of mulch this year, but some reason, last year. For some reason, the last couple weeks, every time I go to do mulch, Marianne has something else to do.
Yeah,
I don't know.
There's lots of other things to do. It's not... And I have children to take care of, too.
Yeah. And the unfortunate part is my Jeep is currently...
out of commission.
Yeah, I think it's just done for, to be honest with you. So we are just using our lawnmower and a garden cart.
So it takes a little while.
Yeah.
But you know what? Keep fighting the good fight.
Yeah. Because that's what we have and that's what we use.
And it does work really well for a lot of things. Like you can use it to fill holes. If you got random holes in the ground, which we somehow seem to have from digging things up, I guess. I don't really know. Yeah. In your garden, it works well for your flower beds. It works well for bedding for your animals, like in your barns. And then the nice thing about that, too, is that you can just shovel it out at the end of the season or the beginning of the season. And then you've got compost, too. So
we have all of our rabbits in the barn. So that's what we've been doing is just like adding that
the carbon diaper method.
Yeah, carbon diaper. So it's just mulch and then be a layer of rabbit manure and then more mulch, and it keeps the odor down.
Yeah, it does.
And then
we shovel it out and put it in our compost pile and put it on our beds for our vegetables.
Yeah.
So
we tend to let it set for a little bit because we don't filter out any of the urine or anything like that. So like it does need to rest a little bit. If you're using just the pellets,
yeah, if you're
we
just
used to
collecting
do
the
that.
pellets,
Like we would filter it where like
you can catch it.
yeah, and it would go in like a bucket with holes in it, which it was just a really gross, disgusting thing. It worked well, but it was nasty to mess with.
But
So we
shoveling,
don't do that anymore.
Yeah, doing the deep bedding works better. And then like I have a whole pile from last year to use for this year, and then we'll clean out the barn soon and then use that pile for next year. So I mean, there's tons of good nutrients in that soil. So get you some wood chips. If you can, find a local arborist or chip drop, depending on where you live. They're just great to have. We have been a fan.
Yeah, and we don't even live close to town. So, like, it was an inconvenience for them to bring them to us. But I think the alternative for them is to pay a lot of money to drop them off at a dump.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, with the cost of diesel and whatnot, I don't know. But find someone local, ask them what they do with their chips, and you might be able to get a good bit.
Might be in luck.
My only recommendation is find a place to put them that is kind of out of the way, because I'm sure our neighbors do not like looking at the massive, massive pile of wood chips in our front
I don't think
yard.
they care that much.
Yeah, the one, I don't really think that they care that much, but still, I care. I don't like looking at it. Like, I have been trying to get rid of these wood chips.
He's trying to use it all up. So another thing that I would like to use them for is making I'm going to try a raised bed for mushrooms this year. So kind of mimicking like the forest floor. I've got a tree I can put a bed under, and then I'll fill it with mulch and some peat moss and put the spores in and put another layer of mulch on top and see what happens. I'm going to try wine cap mushrooms. Those seem to be a pretty easy mushroom to grow. So hopefully I'll get a chance to try that out this year too.
Yeah. I don't know much about mushrooms. I feel like at this point, I personally can't take on any more of like research. So that's just going to be kind of your thing.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll help out as much as you need me to.
It's very simple. I think that just kind of does.
I'm excited to eat some.
Yeah. And I'll probably try a couple other types next year. But this year we'll just get one kind, see if that method works, and see what happens.
And then you were also going to try to do some propagating of some blackberries, right?
Yes. We trimmed all those blackberry bushes, and then I was like, well, I bet I could keep these. They're all budding, all of the trimmings. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them that were the right size. And so I just put them in a bucket with some water until I could get to them, which hopefully this weekend the weather's supposed to be a little bit nicer, and I can get the kids to help me pot up and propagate all those blackberry cuttings. So that's exciting. Might as well make something out of nothing, right?
Yep. So that's really kind of all that's going on right here. We're still just waiting for
warmer
the weather
weather
to warm up, It's just been rainy and not snowed, I guess sleeted today.
Yeah, it was like ice pebbles, yeah.
It's like, what is going on? But then it's supposed to be like in the 65, 70 degrees on Sunday.
Yeah.
But I think Sunday from then on, it looks like we're good. But
hopefully.
Who knows?
And I also worked on a couple logo designs this week, so that was really fun. It's always fun getting to kind of figure out, who you're working with and what their vision is for their business and making it come to fruition. So that's been really fun and something I just really enjoy doing for other small businesses and farms. So yeah, if that's ever something you're interested in or you need design work, that information is on our website under the design tab.
So tonight we're talking to Kaylee Buzzard from the Buzzard Farm. And let me tell you something about this. I really, really enjoyed our conversation. And the reason I enjoyed it, and I even say it while we're talking, she is one of the most, like, I feel like she just made me really excited and inspired, like
Yeah.
with like her passion. Like I could hear it in her voice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, and it just made me happy. Like, here is someone that knows what they want and they're going after it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I'm sure you'll hear it. I'm sure you'll hear it. And I don't know about you, but I could not help but get excited. So really enjoyed the conversation, and I really hope you guys enjoy it too.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. And today we are interviewing Kaylee Buzzard from Buzzard Farm. And we are really excited to talk to her. She has alpacas, so that's really exciting. So we're interested in learning all about that. So welcome.
Thank you so much.
Alpacas are so neat. And we've talked about fiber before just because we're fascinated about it.
Yeah.
We would never probably do it just because I feel like it's a big commitment.
Yeah.
I mean, we bought hair sheep just so we wouldn't have to mess
them.
with that.
Yeah.
So how many alpacas do you have?
We have 5 alpaca right now. I hope we've all boys. You can't have boys and girls together.
Oh, really?
So we hope we only have 1 barn. So we are planning on building a bigger barn this year so we can take on girls and boys. I don't plan on breeding or anything. I just plan on being a fiber farm. I love the idea of like a sustainable way to produce your own clothing, not only for yourself, but for your community.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Already learning something. So how come, like, you can't have a male and a female in the same pasture?
Only for breeding.
Okay.
The boys fight, and they even fight with each other, and they like play together.
Okay.
If you know what I mean. So like the previous owners of my 1 alpaca called it wrestling, and and I'm like, that's what they meant by wrestling. Things that you learn, huh?
So you're going to work on building another barn so you can have the males and the females, but they won't
separately
be together. Interesting. And what got you into alpacas?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. You know, my husband and I both grew up in the country, and I was one of those people that I couldn't wait to get out of the country.
Oh, I hear you.
I wanted to escape and never come back. And then we had kids, and we lived in the city, and it was very confining. And we wanted to garden, and suddenly we got really interested in the health of our foods and living longer and wanting to make everything better. And I started making soap, and then we started gardening, and we didn't even have a 1/4 acre. And and it just like one thing led to another. And I started getting really into advocating for small business at the time. So I was going to small fairs all the time, giving out business cards. I was running a blog called Pittsburgh Handmade. We were pretty close to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And we lived in Pittsburgh, and I was advocating for small businesses inside the city. Well, I was going to all these fairs, and at the one fair was this alpaca farm with their alpacas.
Cool.
And I had never seen an alpaca before. And I was so excited. I talked to them for an hour, and I left there, and I told Corey, this is what we're doing. We're moving and we're getting alpacas. That's it. That's all it took. And 3 years later, I have alpaca. It was a lot. It took a lot to get here, but it's
so how did you go about acquiring the alpaca?
So when I started talking to that farm, I kept in touch with them. I kept their business card, and I would go over, and they would show me things about alpaca. They would teach me about the alpaca business, and they were basically priming me to one day adopt their alpaca.
That's cool.
And well, COVID happened, and she got sick, and she had to close her farm pretty quickly. And actually she decided to give the alpaca to her daughters, which, you know, I wasn't ready yet. I didn't have a barn up. Well, then I met someone, just happenstance, who had 4 alpaca that they needed to rehome. Like, it was at my son's school function. She was just talking to someone else about her alpaca, and I heard alpaca.
Yeah.
And I was like, did you just say alpaca? And she said, yeah. And I was like, well, I really want alpaca. And she's like, well, maybe you can take mine. And I did.
That's like the stars aligning perfectly.
Yeah,
wow. That's
fell
amazing.
right in your lap.
That's
Right.
cool.
Right. And so I started out with 4 10-year-old boys. So they were perfect to start out with, because they weren't really rambunctious. They're not going through like any hormonal changes or anything like that. Like young boys, we have 2 young boys right now. They're pretty, you have to be careful with alpaca. Alpaca boys can become really aggressive if you don't handle them properly, especially if you get them really young. So it was nice that I had these older alpaca that, they knew what to expect from people.
Mm-hmm.
There is a thing called berserk alpaca males. Have you guys heard of that?
No. Please tell us.
So if you raise an alpaca from like an infant or like a young alpaca and you overhandle them, specifically boys, but it can happen with girls too, they can become aggressive and attack humans, and people die if they mishandle their alpaca. So you have to be really careful about overhandling your alpaca. So like if you see someone who has an alpaca living in your house, it's really not safe for them because they're being so overhandled. An alpaca will confuse a person for an alpaca, and they'll start wrestling with you, and or they'll try to dominate you the way they would another male alpaca.
Oh, so interesting. Now I've heard of that with male sheep. I don't know if it's true, but I mean, now that you say that, it makes a lot of sense. So so you've had them for 3 years now?
I have had the alpaca for a year and a half.
Year and a half. Okay.
Yeah. A year and a half.
And then how big is your property?
I have a 4-acre property.
Oh, nice.
That's a pretty good size. Yeah. There's a ton you can do.
Do they require a lot of room?
No, they only require about an acre per 4 to 7 alpaca.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And my alpaca, I'm expanding their run. I threw it up. We found out we were getting them on October 1st, and we had less than 2 months to prepare because of winter. We had to get them there before winter. And so their area is a lot smaller. It's like a 1/2 acre, and I'm going to triple it this summer. It's like my major project of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. That seems to be a kind of a common theme that we hear, like, oh, we're getting these animals. Let's hurry up and get something put up for them.
I mean, we've done that.
We've done it. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, someone gave us goats before we had anything for goats. Like,
yeah. So you just roll with it and do the best you can.
Exactly.
And move one step at a time. But it sounds like you definitely knew a lot even before getting them about what you were getting into, especially with a larger animal. I feel like, you want to make sure you know how to take care of them and all of that. But it sounds like you definitely had some good direction and mentorship. So that's really awesome that you were able to make those connections and get to, take in all that information beforehand.
So you're not doing any kind of breeding. You're just doing fiber. Can you kind of walk us through what the fiber side of that looks like?
So I am really new to fiber, like very new to it. And there's so much to it. I bought this really big book about fiber, about all the different types of fiber, about like every sheep and their different textures of fiber and what they're used for. And you see, like, I know about alpaca fiber, I know what to do with alpaca fiber. It's kind of hard to work with because it's so dense, it's very fine, and it's more like hair. It's not like a wool,
okay.
So when you go to spin it, you have to twist it a bit more. There's not as much give as, because there's no elasticity or anything. Okay. I don't know how much you guys know about, spinning.
A little bit, but not much.
Yeah,
yeah, she knows. So I know absolutely nothing.
I would say I'm only familiar with people, processing wool, but that's pretty much. I've seen people have like the Angora rabbits and using their wool, or not wool, their fur. And that's really interesting to me too. So I wonder if it's kind of similar because it's more like hair than it is. It's not that thicker wool consistency.
Yeah, well, so what I do is I sell my fiber raw right now, and people buy it for felting. Because a lot of knitters and crocheters, they like to buy it and spin it themselves because they have better quality and more control over their yarn. Mm-hmm. So I've sold a lot of just raw fiber. And then I also started carding it, and I will sell it occasionally, carding it, because I do have, and that's basically just cleaning it out. And alpaca fiber, it's not like sheep fiber. There's no lanolin in it. So it doesn't have that like stickiness. You don't have to wash it the way you do a sheep fiber. Mm-hmm. So you basically just need to card it and it's ready. Mm-hmm. I've done a lot of felting with it. It's pretty easy to felt with. Now, it's not as long as, other animals that you would, probably have more success with felting. So there's more tricks to it, I guess.
Okay, so back up. What's felting?
So it's when you agitate the fiber to make it stick together, like felt hats.
Okay.
Or like felt silvers.
Okay, gotcha.
You know what
felt
is.
Yeah, okay.
You don't know the process of.
There's like all kinds of crazy fiber arts, like the felting. People make these like
tapestries.
Like, yes.
Yeah. I went to school for fine art too. And so I know that there's, obviously fiber is a thing you can study. And so I had other classmates in other classes that I took that were doing like fiber art. And it was always so neat to see what they were making. Like, man, that's so amazing.
Yeah, I love to watch the YouTube videos on the
dyeing it with like natural dyes and making different things with it. It's really amazing. And it's like you said, it's a higher quality product. A lot of yarn you buy in the store has all kinds of weird synthetic stuff in it, and it's not actually made with natural fibers. So that's a great thing to be able to provide for people who want to make their own creations. I like that.
So with the fiber, what's your eventual goal with it? Are you trying to make it into a full-time business as far as like off the farm income?
I mean, ideally, yes. I mean, it would be wonderful to be able to have the farm to support us, right? I think that's most farm goals.
Yeah, that's the goal for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. We're doing a lot. I feel like modern farming really needs to be diverse.
Oh, yeah.
You need to be able to do a lot. You need to be able to wear a lot of hats and wear them all at once. So I really wanted to do this. I really just wanted to do this. Like, I wanted to be a farmer, And if you would have asked me 10 years ago, if I was going to be a farmer when I grew up, I would have just laughed you out of the room.
Oh,
I thought I was going to be.
I mean, 10 years ago, we were going to 80s night drinking $1 PBRs, like
me too.
Little hipster kids in downtown Grand Rapids,
yeah.
If you would have told me I would be where I'm at now, I would have just laughed at you.
Oh yeah. I thought I was going to be like a lawyer or something. I thought I was going to be
a very different trajectory. Wow.
Yes. Like I was all serious, and yeah, it all somehow changed along the way. But I hope that we can end up doing a lot of things and have them all be really successful.
Yeah.
And that's really my hope. Like I went to all these, I don't know if you guys have this where you're at. There's like the farm markets, and basically they just do everything. Mm-hmm. They sell produce. They sell other farms' goods. Mm-hmm. They sell, fiber products, candles that people made. I want to be that.
Yeah.
That's what I want. And I want my website to be that. And I want my website to represent other farms. I want to sell other farms' products. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to create an online farm market.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great. I like that a lot. I think you're right. I think farming and homesteading nowadays, yes, you can pick something that you are passionate about and kind of center your business around that, but you almost have to kind of build this community with other people and also support what they're doing. I feel like if we could all do that together, we would all really make each other's businesses successful. And I think that's a really beautiful concept.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you said that you are an artist. So your logo, tell us about that.
So I drew a buzzard. I don't even know what kind of buzzard it is. I know it's not one from America. It's like I was looking at pictures of buzzards and I got inspired because, when I think of like an American buzzard, they're kind of depressing. And I didn't like that. And I really wanted to draw something that represented what I wanted to create. I moved here and we had a pasture and it was full of milkweed. And we moved in the spring, and by fall, the entire pasture was just filled with butterflies. Oh. I've never seen so many butterflies in my life. And it was magical. It just like everything was falling into place. And I was so inspired because I had this like new connection with nature and there were butterflies everywhere. It was amazing. And that I started drawing again, and I hadn't done art in 8 or so years, but it was just this crazy inspiration that being here gave me.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
And that was the first thing I drew, was the buzzard for our logo. And I made it a logo, and I made it the Buzzard Farm. And then I kind of put it on the back burner, and then I started doodling for cards, and I make a card and then I put it on the back burner. And last year I took a college course, like last summer, and because I never finished my degree. I'm like 5 classes from finishing it, I'm very, very close, but so I went back to the University of Pittsburgh and I took a algebra course as my first in 10 years. It took all of my life. And I was like, wait a second. If I can spend this much time on a course, why aren't I starting my own business?
Yep.
I need to get more serious about this. So I dropped out of college again.
Yeah.
And I put my logo to work.
Nice. Nice. I like to hear that.
Yeah. I think the entrepreneurial spirit is underrated significantly, especially in our country. I think there are so many people that just kind of go toward this monotonous path of going to college, getting a degree, having a career, doing the thing. And not to say there's anything wrong with that, because I think there is, there's a place for that. I'm glad that there are people who are professionals in their career, but I think that the spirit of entrepreneurship is it's just so valuable. And I don't think that we've really relied on that for a while in our country. But I think that we're starting to understand more that all these little businesses really matter a lot. Mm-hmm. And they're directly connected in our communities. And yeah, so that's always inspirational to hear that we're not the only crazy entrepreneurs out here trying to figure out how to do all of this. And you have the passion behind it, which I think propels you forward. And having great ideas, that also helps. But I think the passion, especially, and then the motivation, like you're saying, I could be spending 5 hours doing that, or I could pursue my dreams and do something that I love.
Yeah. And personally, I think I was just built for that. Every job that I've ever had, it all starts out really good. And about 2 years in, I hate this. I don't want to be working for anyone else. I want to work for myself. And then it's just so I've been at my current job for 5 years now, and I absolutely hate it. But part of that hate is I know that there's something else in the works. So I get really excited. So
you wish you could put more time.
Yeah, I wish that I could work more time into the homestead business and my bees and things like that. But I also know that there's an end goal where hopefully that is the plan. So like I just got to keep trucking, you know. So
but we admire that you're doing that. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Well, I'm fortunate enough. I haven't had a job with a boss since I've had my daughter. So I'm very fortunate in that, you know, my husband works in cybersecurity as his job. And, you know, he got lucky. And so I got lucky. And, you know.
But you're also doing really good things too. So it's not all luck. Give yourself a little credit.
Yeah. I mean, I could just be sitting around, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You could just be sitting around drinking Mountain Dew and eating Doritos. You know?
Binge watching Netflix or something.
Yeah.
Which is okay to do sometimes. No complete, you know, we're not going to down that completely. So you are in the process of making all kinds of other things. You mentioned that you make cards and some other things. So I know that you make candles, and I know that you're working on soap making. And you also mentioned roasting coffee. So tell us about all of those things and that you're working on, I guess.
So the original idea was actually to be coffee roasters, like small time coffee roasters. And I have actually a pretty good spot on the Etsy page, but it doesn't seem like people are very interested in buying coffee. Unfortunately, I'm not sure where to go with it is sort of the problem. We roast amazing coffee. It is so good. That's why we started doing it. It's kind of like you don't really appreciate something until you do it yourself. And then you're like, wow, this could be so much better. And I guess that's how so many companies start, right? You know, they're like, I don't really like any of the options in the store, so I'm going to make it myself.
Yeah,
and
you see a problem and you have a solution.
Yeah, and so we're kind of coffee snobs. We only really like quality coffee, and I don't like any of the coffee in the store. I like medium roasted coffee, and I like ethical coffee. So we actually buy all of our coffee beans locally. And the person we buy it from, they buy it from very small developing farms that all have like ethical practices. And we look up all of our farms before we buy them. And we buy a variety of beans. Everything's medium roasted, and we do very limited batches that we release because it's easier that way with how much we're doing at this point. And if we had more interest and we could, you know, then we would scale it upwards. But we have a professional roaster, everything in our house.
Wow. I bet your house smells amazing.
It actually smells like something's on fire when we roast.
That makes sense.
It's very smoky. We have to have it vented outside. But we always have lots and lots of freshly roasted coffee on hand.
I'll have to check that out because I'm also a very particular coffee drinker. I like to ground my own beans, and I like really good coffee. So I don't think I realized that you did that. So that was a neat thing to find out.
Yeah, I don't think I realized that like people just did that in their home. Like I thought you'd have to have this giant monstrosity of a machine to roast coffee.
Well, you know, there's a lot of like DIY ways to do it. I'll have to send you guys some links because there's a lot of really creative ways that people roast coffee. You can do it with just like a popcorn popper and a heat gun. And you just spin the heat gun, spin the popcorn popper with the heat gun underneath. And you have to time it. And you have to know a little bit about what to expect while you're roasting. But there are a lot of DIY ways to do it. Now, you can only roast a very small amount.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
But for your own personal consumption, it works.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really cool.
But yeah, we have enough to make 3 pounds at a time.
Okay.
Is a lot for a small roaster. Because a lot of people, like, they can only make a few pounds at a time. Like all the roasters that you can buy in a store, they only make a half pound.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So all your the coffee that you roast, it's all small batch. Is it never the same? So like if someone was like, man, I really like the farmhouse blend from the Buzzard Farm, they couldn't get that for every single time.
Oh yeah, you can always get the same order. And I always take custom orders. And I have a special request form on my website for such special orders. And it says on my roasted coffee section that we always take special orders.
Awesome.
And I plan to update the website to list every type of coffee that we have listed. And on our shop update section, it's the what's new section of our website. We always list the types of coffee that we have in stock at that time.
Great. Oh, that's awesome. That is really cool. That is really cool. We'll probably be placing an order pretty soon.
Awesome.
Are you a homesteader looking for a little bit more information on maybe how to butcher a pig, maybe how to grow a garden, start seeds? Well, Abundance Plus might be for you. To learn more, there's a link in our show notes. Once you're there, you can use coupon code ROCKBRIDGE10 to save 10% off your first purchase.
And then you're in the process of making soap, right? You're doing that. That takes a while to do. So yeah, that's a process. So you're going to do a variety of different scents and different types of soap. Is that the plan?
That's the plan. I started making soap because we have really terribly sensitive skin. Everything that we use makes my husband in particular break out in hives. I started doing this like when my daughter was a baby, so 8-9 years ago. And I've made it for our consumption ever since. And so one of the things that I like to tell people is I don't use any artificial fragrances. So no fragrance oils at all, which are really bad for your skin.
Yeah.
They're really harsh. And they're one of the things that a lot of people who have sensitive skin react to. Another thing I don't use any mica powder. I don't use any like cosmetic colorants. I only use natural ingredients. So if my soap is a color, which a lot of times it's not a color, because I want everything to be raw. I want it to look raw.
Yeah.
And that's sort of my theme. People need whole things. They need whole foods, whole soap, whole everything. That's why we do this homesteading thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So if I'm adding artificial everything to the things I'm producing, then I'm not really practicing what I preach.
Yeah. It's when we thought about making salves, we kind of went down that road too of, there's so many like additives that people add to things, or even like you're saying, the fragrance oils, we only use essential oils because the fragrance oils are a lot cheaper, but they're not beneficial. They're not good for you. So
yeah,
it might cost a little more, but the quality of product is much better.
Yeah, exactly.
So we might not have, cherry tobacco beard balm, but it's better for you.
It's way better for you. Yes. And it won't make you break out, and it'll nourish your skin and do the right things, just like your soap. It's so important. It's that too, I feel like, is underrated. I feel like most people have no idea what's in their body products. Just don't know.
Oh yeah. And they can put whatever they want because the cosmetic, you're not
ingesting it, so it's not as
what it's you don't have to get FDA approval for any cosmetic. So and people don't realize that they can put anything in your cosmetic. So I think to buy from like a large corporation, I have an acquaintance that always likes to only buy from large corporations. And she thinks because a lot of people use them, they're more trustworthy. And I was like, well, they just have more money.
Yeah.
That's right.
They could have a laboratory and just invent all that. When, small town, there people like you and I, we're just trying to do good for people.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And make a little money while doing it, and all support each other.
Yeah.
In our business ventures. Yeah.
And we don't trust the FDA, period. So that's just...
Well, there's that too. Yeah.
So, and then you guys also do candles.
Yeah.
So I noticed that there's soy wax candles. You haven't got on the beeswax train yet?
Oh, well, I am really allergic to bees.
That makes sense.
Only reason we don't have them, my husband wants them so badly. I'm like, I'm so
Good reason
allergic.
not to have them.
Yeah, that's the reason. But I do use beeswax and a lot of the other things that I use. I love beeswax so much. I love beeswax candles.
Mm-hmm.
I go to all those little fairs, like I said, and I love the ones that look like honeycombs.
Oh, yeah.
People get so creative with them.
Mhm.
Do you guys ever make candles out of your beeswax?
We haven't yet.
Yeah, not yet. Most of our wax goes to our other products, but eventually we'll get there.
Yeah, it's on the. I'm sure you have this too, where you have like a list of things you want to make that you have not yet done, but plan to. Absolutely.
But yeah, I use soy wax. I only buy soy wax that is grown and harvested in the United States. I'm a huge environmentalist, and so and the biggest part of environmentalism that I'm really passionate about is keeping everything local, local meaning, because the internet's changed what local means, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Local is anywhere in our country because that's what local is now.
Yeah.
It just is.
If I can buy it on Etsy, it's local.
Exactly. If it ships to the United States, it's local. And it's amazing what the internet has done. But I've really tried to keep things as environmentally friendly as possible with my ventures.
That's great.
And it also helps, farmers here as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we agree. Yeah, it's amazing when people think, oh, they don't think about their avocado that comes from South America. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot involved. Yes, it might be delicious and good for you, but that traveled a very far distance to get to you. So that's not really that economical or environmentally friendly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No hate on avocados either. I actually am allergic, but I know that people love avocados, so hopefully I don't get hate mail for that.
Yeah. I like avocados. So if you're going to send hate mail, make sure it goes to Marianne.
Yeah, it's just address it to me, everybody.
Well, it sounds like you have a lot going on.
Yes.
Yeah. It's so
the alpacas alone, I feel like that's a big job just to maintain and take care of and do that whole part. So doing all these other things and then also having a family, that's a lot. So how do you juggle all that, or do you have any advice for people on how they can juggle that?
So the first thing I did, all right, is I pulled my kids from school. I pulled my kids from public school, which a lot of people would say I was completely crazy. But in Pennsylvania, we have cyber schools. So it took a lot of load off of me, and I could homeschool, but where am I going to fit that in? Like, how much I'm going on. So both of my kids are doing cyber schooling, and they're old enough. They work pretty independently. Before, because we live in the country, I was taking them to school and I was driving 40 minutes a day. Now that added 2 hours back to my day.
Oh yeah.
And that was very helpful. And I keep very regimented. I actually use Google Calendar for myself. I use business management apps for myself.
That's great.
And I make like long-term, short-term goods. Like I use goals. I use Trello to keep myself on task. Like I will set goals for me to do one thing and the other thing. I tried to set everything up as I was a business when I made this a business.
That's great.
And I don't even wake up early. Yeah. I don't wake up early. I wake up at 7:50.
That's early for a lot of people.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's not farmer early.
No, it's not farmer early, but
it's not farmer early.
You just got to train the alpacas that they need to eat a little later, and then you're fine.
They're a little angry by the time I get out there. I started doing it. We have a lot of coyote. We have a lot of wildlife problems. So I don't like to get out there before like 8:39, just because I don't want to deal with them myself. I don't want to deal with predators. But B, it keeps my animals safer if they are still shut in their
Yeah, that makes
enclosures
sense.
until harm is gone.
This is just out of curiosity because we love our Great Pyrenees so much. He's just been a great asset to add, and barks all the time if there's predators. Do alpaca do okay with livestock dogs, or how?
Some people have them.
Okay.
I know some people have them. However, like every alpaca blog I have ever read, every alpaca book, and there's not much information out there about alpaca.
Yeah.
They all say do not mix dogs with your alpaca.
I was kind of thinking that, but I didn't know for sure if
your alpaca will, like my alpaca will try to stomp my dog.
And see, so that's like, what I was thinking, that I've heard the alpaca make like a good livestock guardian.
Sort of like a donkey does.
Yeah.
Well, we might be getting a donkey too. So
I really want a donkey. I've always wanted alpaca too. So there's a farm like 3 miles down the road, and I think that they rotate sheep and alpaca in like their front pasture. So sometimes you see them and sometimes you don't see them. But
I haven't seen them in a long time, actually.
Yeah, they may not have them anymore, but I'd say they had half a dozen, maybe a little bit more than that. And I just love seeing them. They're just so interesting. So also their manure is really good for gardening too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good for gardening. And, a lot of farms dehydrate it and, powderize it and sell it.
Yeah, I almost bought some when we first moved here, and I needed filler for our garden beds. And I contacted an alpaca farm because I heard that their manure was really good to put directly in. It just never ended up working out with having to go to the farm and transport it and all that.
Well, they wanted us to pay for it, but then we had to shovel it up ourselves. And then, and then I was like, then I have to bring it home and
it was going to be a big job. And we had to figure out a time to do it. And we both work. So it's like, no, that's not going to work. But I've heard that it's really good manure.
Yeah, we do use all of our alpaca manure in our garden. We actually placed our garden right next to the alpaca pasture just for convenience sake.
That's smart. Very smart.
Yeah.
Well, if you could think ahead, what do you see for the future? What's the goals for the Buzzard Farm?
Well, this year we are building a greenhouse.
Nice.
I know I'm adding another thing. Okay, we're doing another thing.
We do it too. We're like, how about this? Let's add mushrooms to the mix. Why not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Not. Well, I really want to sell plants, like house plants. Yeah. I want to sell house plants.
It's a great business.
So bad. Like baby house plants. I have like one of those propagation stations on my wall that propagates like 60 plants at a time.
Oh, wow.
And I have 70 houseplants at any given time. I mean, I kill them. Okay. I do kill my houseplants.
If you sell them to other people, the other people can kill them.
Yeah. Exactly. I just have to make the babies and make them root and make them grow. And then other people can do the rest. I don't kill a lot of them. I still have so many plants, but we are building a greenhouse. My husband has wanted a greenhouse for forever. And I hope that we can sell plants eventually. I hope that we can become a hub, like a farm hub where people can come and visit. And I've also talked about doing, I want to putting a tiny house with the alpaca and doing tourism. An Airbnb, alpaca Farmstead.
Yeah.
Cool. I like that a lot.
Love that idea of being able to share and then doing classes like spinning classes and fiber classes and hosting events at my farm.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
You're a dreamer and I like it. It's very encouraging because you're a dreamer, but also you're doing things. So I feel like that's encouraging for other people to see, like, you can have all these, ideas, but focus, like you're saying, one step at a time and try that one thing and then try another little thing and add it in slowly. And you can be really successful by doing all that.
And I feel like I can't stop smiling because like I see the excitement in you. Yeah. And I'm like, I know this is going to happen. Like she's going to do this. And I am so happy for you.
Yeah, I feel like I stumbled upon your Instagram and I was like, I just really like this person. Like she's doing this stuff and she's got these alpaca and she's going for it. And I could feel that even through like your Instagram posts. So
It's really sweet. You know, it's funny because I think I spent my entire 20s sort of, I think a lot of people do this. They're just like, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? And then it just happened and it never felt more right. And that can't happen.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people just kind of float through life and, you know, they're not, no. And you can't find it. It is out there, like what you want, what you really want. It's such a hard thing, I feel like, to figure out. But it's amazing when you do. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that is really exciting. So we're probably going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. Do you have any words of wisdom or a lesson learned that you would like to share with anyone who's thinking about homesteading or
starting
already
a business?
Yeah, starting a business.
Or both.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is, in order to not overwhelm yourself, you know, take each day at a time and only give yourself one goal a day. One goal. And schedule those goals for 5 days a week. And if you get ahead, then great. You have free time. You can accomplish more. But, you know, I think being overwhelmed is a lot of the reason people stall. So to not get overwhelmed, don't overburden yourself. Give yourself 5 of the most important tasks and then move on. And that's honestly the biggest lesson that I have learned. And I think the reason why I've been so successful, at least in my eyes, you know, successful as in I'm still going, I'm still doing it. I haven't given up yet.
Yeah.
Well, that is really good. Really, really good. I've really enjoyed talking to you a lot.
Yeah, this has been really, really great.
And I feel like I've learned a lot of stuff too. Like I knew nothing about alpacas.
Yeah, I knew very little, and I'm sure there's a lot we could still learn. But if you want to learn that, we will put all of the Buzzard Farm contact information in the show notes. So the link to their website and Instagram and all that good stuff will be in the show notes. So please go show them some love and buy some of their cool things and follow them.
Yep. So Kaylee, thanks for being on tonight. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you guys so much. It was awesome.
Well, that was a really great conversation with Kaylee. Thank you so much again for joining us and being willing to be on the podcast. I personally just felt very encouraged. It's always, you know, when you're in this space where you have a small business or a farm, it's easy to feel like there are lots of other people that are already doing what you're doing. But I really loved that, you know, Kaylee is such a big supporter of other businesses. And that's how we try to be as well, is just kind of share the wealth. There's nothing wrong with encouraging other people to follow their dreams. And it sort of becomes contagious. When you feel that inspiration, then you start to encourage that in others. And it's just a really cool thing to experience. So I'm really glad that you guys joined us for that and hope you enjoyed it as well. Part of Kayleen's business is making candles. So she is releasing 2 new candles. There's a bourbon barrel candle and a honey candle. So that was kind of fun. I think she kind of did it in honor of the podcast, since we're in Kentucky and we have bees. So that was really a really nice thing for her to do. And go check out her shop. We'll also post information in the show notes, all the links to her social and website and all that stuff. So thank you again, and
until next time,
happy homesteading. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you wouldn't mind subscribing and giving us a rating so that other people can find our podcast, that would be wonderful. Also, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, our website, rockbridgefarmstead.com, or find our Etsy shop under Rockbridge Farmstead.